Welcome back to Half as Interesting, a brand new subsidiary channel of Watch Mojo where we just list things as quickly as possible and you sit there slack-jawed while we churn your life force into sweet, sweet AdSense money. Today we're listing zip codes, or postal codes as they say in the old country. Here's the zip code with the highest income per capita. Here's the zip code with the largest population. Here's the zip code with the highest ratio of women. Here's the zip code with the highest percentage of people who bike to work. Here's the zip code that looks most like a boat. Wait, hold on. That is a boat. Okay, screw this list. We have kind of interesting content to explain. Now, in order to understand how this tiny 45-foot boat got its very own zip code, we need to take a little trip back in time. You see, before the United States figured out how to make money by designing websites that gave people depression, we had to support ourselves by building cars out of metal from the ground and selling them to people for money. Primitive, I know, but hear me out. America's auto industry was huge throughout the 20th century, and the epicenter of this manufacturing boom was here in Detroit, Michigan. With so many raw materials being shipped into Detroit and a massive flow of new cars out of Detroit, the Detroit River quickly became one of the most trafficked waterways in the United States, next to the Mississippi River and New York City's subway system. While the American auto industry has since declined, and Detroit was ravaged by a giant lizard named 90s-era American foreign trade policy, the Detroit River is still a crucial shipping route for the thousands of freighters that operate in North America's Great Lakes. Now, you know the classic adage, where there are lots of large boats, there's also sometimes a small boat. It's not a very useful adage, but it does apply here. That's where the J.W. Westcott Company comes in. Originally, this one-boat operation served as a ship-to-shore service in the late 1800s before the advent of radio. Essentially, if a shipping company had a message they needed to deliver to their ships, like if there was a change in weather conditions or if their cargo full of stovepipe hats had suddenly gone out of style, the J.W. Westcott Company would send their rowboat out to tell the ship to dump their stovepipe hats into the water before they embarrassed themselves. As the country began to industrialize, however, a new problem arose. The freighters passing through Detroit didn't have time to send or receive mail. Ships that served the Great Lakes throughout the auto boom, and up until today, tend to carry highly valuable cargo, often raw materials like coal and iron ore. This means that cutting down on shipping times is absolutely essential, and modern freighters working the Detroit River are put on tight schedules that only leave them enough time to load and unload their cargo. There's no wiggle room for the mariners to pick up their recreational iron ore at the local post office. So, in 1895, the same year that radio killed the rowboat star, the J.W. Westcott Company pivoted to midshipment mail delivery. Basically, if a ship on the Detroit River needs something delivered, the J.W. mailboat will idle up next to it, using the suction from the ship's wake to stay aligned, and while both boats are still in motion, will send up the ship's mail using an ingenious invention called a, quote, bucket attached to a string. But Sam, you might be saying, if you don't talk about zip codes soon, I'm going to report this video for promoting terrorism. Well, okay, fine, let's talk about zip codes. You see, while the J.W. Westcott Company makes a lot of their deliveries independently, things like groceries or nautical charts or mistresses, they also have a contract with the United States Postal Service dating back to 1948 as the proprietor of an official U.S. mailboat. When zip codes were implemented about 15 years later, though, this unique arrangement presented some problems. Basically, in the early 60s, every address that could receive mail was assigned to a local zip code. This made it easier to automate mail sorting, since AI will never be advanced enough to know that you were trying to spell Schenectady, New York. This even applies to things like aircraft carriers. Each got assigned their own zip code, so that when the military needs to overnight a couple of nuclear warheads for Christmas, the mail sorting algorithm knows where to send them. The freighters on the Detroit River, however, couldn't be assigned a zip code since there was no post office floating in the river. So, to remedy this, the USPS granted the J.W. Westcott mailboat the rank of post office and gave it its very own zip code, 48222, essentially the zip code of the Detroit River. So, if you're feeling lonely and you want to start a correspondence with a random freighter captain, all you need to do is address your sad little letter to the ship's name, Marine Post Office, Detroit, Michigan, 48222. Of course, if you want to get the attention of a freighter captain, you should probably just send them a bunch of emails. But if you really want to stand out from the crowd of people trying to befriend freighter captains, your email address should stand out too. Like, what about coolguy@normalbehavior.rodeo? Well, guess what? You could register that email address right now with our sponsor, Hover. Hover makes it easy to build out your online presence with a custom domain to fit any brand. They've got classy extensions like .com and .org. You can also opt for one of their 400 other domain extensions like .studio, .restaurant, or even .lol. And better yet, Hover can help you put together custom, professional email addresses to match your website with their best-in-class customer service team. I know all this for sure because I've used Hover for years, including for our business emails. And when we made a switch to a custom email address, our hit rate on cold calls shot up immediately. So professionalize your web presence with 10% off at hover.com/HAI.